Our top story this Wednesday, the polar vortex is bringing brutally cold and dangerous temperatures to large parts of the Midwest today. With the wind chill, it is expected to feel like about 50 below zero in Chicago this morning. Frigid temperatures are forecast across the region. Minnesota could see wind chills of 70 below. Experts warn in weather this icy, frostbite can strike within minutes. The cold snap is even impacting mail operations in parts of Montana. Mail delivery and collection will be suspended throughout the eastern part of the state today. If you'd like to check on your area, there's a link with service alerts in this story at ktvq.com. Could the Colstrip power plants be closing sooner than first expected? Its future is in the hands of a Texas judge working with the bankruptcy of Westmoreland Coal, which has a supply contract with the nearby Rosebud mine. In a court filing from last week, Northwestern Energy urged the judge to reject a proposal from Westmoreland debtors to end a 40-year-old sales contract between the plant and its Rosebud mine. If the judge allows the contract to be nullified, it could force the closure of Colstrip Units 3 and 4 by the end of this year. That's 7 years sooner than originally thought. Westmoreland Coal is trudging through a massive $1.4 billion bankruptcy marked with dozens of debtors wanting to recoup the money they're owed. Owners of the power plant say that ending Westmoreland's contract would increase energy costs for consumers and hurt the bottom line for both the mine and the power plant. Environmentalists are even chiming in, saying a rapid closure of the plant would be very harmful to the Colstrip community. Westmoreland owns 3 Montana mines, the Rosebud mine at Colstrip, a part of the Upsalka mine near Hardin, and the Savage mine at the Montana-North Dakota border. And meanwhile, back here in Billings,
on unzoned property, there are a lot of things that are allowed, and gravel mining is one of those things. And as both our legal team and planning staff have said, we don't have the ability to regulate that. That's regulated through the Department of Environmental Quality.
Yellowstone County commissioners have unanimously approved a controversial gravel pit project despite backlash from some area residents. Commissioner John Ostlund says despite concerns from the residents, the county could not prohibit First Mark Construction from using the unzoned land near Oscars Park. The project still has to get more approvals from the DEQ before moving forward. Since announced, residents have protested, citing concerns about traffic, flooding, groundwater, and a decrease in property values. In their decision, the commissioners attempted to address some of those issues with conditions to the approval, including a mandated route for all trucks to take to help alleviate traffic concerns. But despite the conditions, many residents are still concerned.
It's going to be scarred for generations. There's no timeline. They say 10 to 15 years, but it's going to be more like 30 to 40 years. When you look at Billings, that's that last piece of property that we can all take a breath and look at and go, you know what, let's do the right thing.
First Mark Business Development Manager Ed Walker said the project is expected to last 12 to 15 years, and then the company plans to restore the land to include a lake for the owners of Oscars Park to develop. Cleanup is underway between Bozeman and Livingston after a loaded coal train derailed an estimated 40 cars Tuesday afternoon. Montana Rail Link says no one was injured and the train wasn't carrying any hazardous material, but coal was spilled. What caused the train to derail is under investigation. Officials are not sure when the track might reopen. A Roberts man is behind bars this morning after he crashed a pickup truck into the Carbon County Courthouse building. Take a look at this video posted on the county Facebook page. No one was injured, but Tish DeVries faces a charge of felony endangerment and was taken to the Yellowstone County Detention Facility. The crash happened just after noon Tuesday in the building that houses the courts and the sheriff's office in Red Lodge. The sheriff believes DeVries was targeting county offices. A bill that would make it illegal for doctors to help patients take their own life had its first hearing at the state capitol Tuesday. House Bill 284 would open doctors up to possible homicide charges if they were to comply with patients' wishes and speed up a patient's death by prescribing a lethal dose of medication. Assisted suicide is not explicitly legal in Montana, but a ruling in the 2009 Montana Supreme Court case, Baxter versus Montana, created what some call a loophole that allows the practice. The bill's sponsor, Republican Carl Glim of Flathead County, says it sends the wrong message to people about suicide as a solution.
Every session, this body takes up legislation and spending bills to try and curb the suicide frequency in our veterans, our youth, and our Native American populations. This bill is an opportunity to send a consistent message about suicide from young to old, from healthy to sick, that it's not a good option.
Some of those who spoke in opposition to the bill see things differently. Roberta King is the daughter of Robert Baxter, the plaintiff in the Montana Supreme Court case that allowed physician-assisted suicide. She testified at Tuesday's hearing, saying the choice should be left to the patient, not the government.
People in Montana believe that we know how to take care of ourselves without government interference. We trust that our doctors will give us the best possible medical advice, and the Montana Supreme Court was right to agree.
A similar bill to outlaw physician-assisted suicide failed in Montana during the 2017 legislature. 2 Montana men who spent years in prison for crimes they didn't commit appeared at the state legislature. They spoke in favor of 2 bills which they say would either prevent false convictions or make it clear how wrongful convictions can be overturned. But law enforcement officials turned out in force to oppose both measures. Senate Bill 172 from Billings Democrat Margie McDonald clarifies legal standards on new evidence. Prosecutors oppose it, saying it's too lax and would require them to hold on to huge volumes of evidence indefinitely. Senate Bill 156 from Billings Republican Roger Webb would require more vetting of criminals who have been promised favors to testify against someone. Law enforcement officials lined up to oppose the bill, saying it would destroy their ability to use confidential informants. Richard Burkhart of Great Falls and Cody Marble of Missoula, both exonerated within the past 2 years, spoke for SB 156. They say incentivized witnesses led to their convictions.
You're sitting in jail, you know you're guilty, you did something, maybe you're going to prison for 10 years and you have somebody come along and say, well, if you say this or do that, we'll give you less time. If this law was in place, I feel like there's a much better chance that what happened to me would not have happened.
The Senate Judiciary Committee will vote later on each of the bills. The state of Wyoming's legislature is considering moving away from daylight saving time, but there's a stipulation. The bill would need 3 adjoining states to also opt into daylight saving in order for it to move forward. Republican Representative Dan Larson says the bill would send a message to the federal government that states should decide whether to adopt daylight saving. Wyoming would be in the central time zone, but would have standard time all year long. On Monday, the measure passed the Wyoming House. The change would take place immediately once it's passed all legislative hurdles. As the state of Washington declares a state of emergency due to an influx of measles cases, health officials here in Montana are on high alert. Measles is a serious respiratory disease that involves fever, cough, and a rash of tiny red spots. State health officials say there are no confirmed cases in Montana. The last case was back in 1990. Barbara Schneeman with Riverstone Health says experts are watching the disease because society is so mobile. Health officials are warning medical providers to be on the lookout for symptoms, especially because infected people have been known to recently frequent public places, including airports. The governor of Washington state has declared a state of emergency due to 36 active cases. In business news, the newest grocery store to hit Billings has set its sights on an opening date in early March. Winco Foods says the store at 24th and Central is right on track. The company is looking to employ 160 full-time and part-time employees, and we are told there's a steady stream of applicants lining up for positions. Billings is not the only Winco coming to Montana. A store in Helena will also open in March. Bozeman is currently on track to have a store as well, but there is no firm timeline for that location. Last night's Bob Seger concert at Metro Park's Rimrock Auto Arena marks the 3rd highest gross sales in the arena's history. Tuesday night's performance comes after Seger had to reschedule his 2017 show after suffering from a ruptured disc. He kicked off his new tour last fall and has been going strong since. Seger opened with Long Twin Silver Line and played classic Still the Same. A long-time, very dedicated follower of Seger told Q2 she hadn't heard him play that song since 1976. Well, stick with